movie that never existed. There's a movie that dozens, maybe hundreds of people remember watching as kids. It starred Sinbad, the comedian, dressed as a genie, bumbling his way through magic mishaps in a 90s family comedy. They remember the VHS cover. They remember watching it in their cousin's living room. They remember scenes, lines, the ending. But there's a problem. That movie doesn't exist. It never did. There is no record of it, no clips, no posters, not even a trace in the dusty corners of the internet. It's not just a forgotten film. It's a shared memory of something that never happened. This is what we call the Mandela Effect, a strange glitch in the collective memory of millions. People also remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, but he didn't. He became president of South Africa in the 90s. Still, the memory feels real, vivid, emotional. So, what's going on here? Why do so many of us remember things that never happened? And why do we trust those memories so easily? Memory isn't a recording. It's a story. We like to think of memory as a kind of internal camcorder, a faithful recorder of what happened. But it's not. Your brain doesn't store memories the way a hard drive stores files. Instead, it rebuilds them, from scattered fragments, impressions, emotions, associations. Every time you recall something, you're not pulling out a copy. You're repainting the picture, and every repainting slightly changes the original. You remember your high school graduation, the music, the air, your friends. But are you remembering the moment? Or the last time you remembered the moment? Memory is more like a story we retell to ourselves. And stories shift with time. They absorb new details. They leave out others. They bend to the moods we're in, or the people we're with. This isn't a flaw. It's how our minds work. Flexible. Adaptive. Human. But it means one simple, unsettling thing. Your memory is not as reliable as you think. The false memory machine. In the 1990s, psychologist Elizabeth Loftus ran a series of quiet, chilling experiments. She showed people doctored photographs, like a child photoshopped into a hot air balloon ride they never took. Then she'd ask them to describe the experience. And they would. They'd tell her how the balloon swayed, what their parents said, what they were wearing. None of it was real, but their minds filled in the blanks. This is false memory, when your brain confidently remembers something that never happened. Loftus went further. She implanted entire stories. You got lost in a shopping mall when you were 5. Most participants denied it, but some didn't. They began to remember it, the fear, the stranger who helped, the candy they were promised afterward. It didn't happen, but their brains stitched together a memory anyway. These weren't stupid people. They were just human. And their minds were doing what all of ours do, blending imagination, suggestion, and belief into something that feels as real as truth. Eyewitnesses and the illusion of certainty. In courtrooms around the world, the most powerful testimony is often the simplest. I saw them. I remember their face. We trust eyewitnesses. We trust the confidence in their voices. We trust the emotional weight behind their words. But again, we shouldn't. Studies show that eyewitness accounts are among the least reliable forms of evidence, especially under stress. Imagine witnessing a robbery. Your heart is pounding. Adrenaline floods your system. Everything becomes urgent and blurred. Later, the police show you a lineup. You hesitate. One face seems familiar. You say, that's him. But was it really? Or did your mind, desperate to fill in the blanks, grab the closest available answer? Confidence is not accuracy. Emotion is not proof. Memory, in moments of fear or trauma, becomes warped. Even time itself gets strange. Seconds stretch. Details collapse. And yet, to the witness, and to the jury, it all feels crystal clear. That's the danger. Not that memory fails, but that it fails with conviction. Why the brain fills in gaps. Your brain doesn't like empty space. It fills in missing pieces of sound in a noisy room. It guesses the shape of a shadow in the dark. It completes half-seen patterns automatically. And memory works the same way. When parts of a memory are missing because of time, distraction, or emotion, your brain doesn't leave a blank. It fills it in. Using context. Using suggestion. Using imagination. You remember that your dad told a joke at your birthday when you were 6. You remember everyone laughing. But maybe he didn't say that joke. Maybe you only imagined he did, because it fits the feeling of the day. This is what psychologists call reconstructive memory. We don't retrieve the past, we rebuild it. Sometimes we add details that never existed. Other times we leave out things that did. The brain is a storyteller, not an archivist. And every good storyteller knows. The story must make sense, even if it isn't true. Collective memory, shared illusion. Sometimes our false memories don't just live in our own heads. They spread. Thousands of people remember the Monopoly man with a monocle, but he never had one. They swear the color chartreuse is a shade of red. It's green. They insist on hearing Luke, "I am your father" in Star Wars. But the line is actually, "No, I am your father." This isn't just personal error, it's collective misremembering. When enough people share the same false belief, it becomes harder to question it. The memory feels validated, safe, familiar. Some researchers think this happens because our brains are social. We absorb memories not just from experience, but from stories, jokes, group conversations, pop culture references. Over time, these blend together. What you remember might not be from life, but from someone else's voice. We are constantly updating each other's minds, which means, strangely, your memories are never entirely your own. When memory betrays the self, sometimes memory fails in small, harmless ways, but sometimes it strikes at the heart of who we are. There are people, real people, who vividly remember committing crimes they never did, signing confessions, recounting details, breaking down in guilt and grief. But the evidence shows otherwise. In one study, researchers convinced healthy participants that they had once been in a fight with the police. With just a few suggestive interviews, over 70% began to recall the false event, adding emotion, detail, even facial expressions of officers they had never met. The brain, it turns out, doesn't need much to form a memory, just enough pressure, enough repetition, enough reason to believe. We think of memory as ours, as the anchor of our identity. But under the right conditions, it can be rewritten, from the outside. And if your own mind can plant stories about you that aren't true, then what exactly makes you you? Childhood, dream, or imagination? Think of your earliest memory, not a photograph, not a story someone told you, but something you believe you truly remember. Maybe it's the smell of a blanket, the shape of a ceiling, the way a stuffed animal felt in your hands. But how do you know it really happened? The line between memory and imagination is paper thin, especially in childhood. Children are more suggestible. They absorb words like water absorbs dye. They mix dreams with stories, stories with feelings, feelings with facts. And then, decades later, those woven threads harden into memory. But ask yourself, was it real, or was it something you created to make sense of the world? Memory isn't just about the past. It's how we build the past, layer by layer, feeling by feeling. Sometimes it's accurate, other times it's a mirage, the comfort of false memory. Here's the strangest part. False memories aren't always bad. Sometimes they comfort us. They heal wounds. They turn chaos into story. You might misremember a fight as less cruel than it was, or remember a lost loved one's voice more clearly than you ever heard it. The brain does this not to deceive, but to protect. A kind memory is sometimes more useful than a true one. A softened memory can let us move on. A brightened moment can help us feel safe. So while it's easy to see false memory as a glitch, it might also be a gift, a way the mind smooths out the jagged edges of life, not fact, but meaning, not proof, but peace. Memory is survival. If memory isn't reliable, why do we rely on it so much? Because it's not designed for truth. It's designed for survival. Your ancestors didn't need to remember exactly which berry was poisonous, just the color, the shape, the story passed down. They didn't need to replay a lion attack frame by frame. They just needed to remember, avoid the tall grass. Memory evolved not to store data, but to guide decisions. It filters out the noise. It highlights the threat. It tells a simple story that keeps you alive. That story doesn't have to be accurate. It just has to work. So your brain remembers what helps you act, not what helps you prove the past, which means the very thing that keeps you safe can also deceive you, living in a mind that edits itself. We like to believe our memories are solid, unchanging, a kind of proof of who we are. But the truth is quieter, more slippery. You are living in a mind that edits itself. That rewrites scenes, that corrects dialogue, that swaps out one version of the past for another. Not maliciously, not foolishly, but simply because that's what minds do. And this changes how we see everything, from guilt to nostalgia, from history to identity. If our memories shape our reality, but our memories change, then so does our sense of self. You are not just the sum of what happened, you are the sum of what you remember, and maybe even more than that. You are the sum of what you believe you remember. Memory, mystery, and meaning. So where does that leave us? In a strange shifting space, where the past is not fixed, where the truth is blurry, and where certainty is sometimes the most misleading thing of all. Maybe that's the real lesson, that it's okay not to trust every memory, that doubt isn't weakness, it's wisdom, and that mystery is part of being human. We are all walking around with stories stitched together from fragments, some real, some imagined, some borrowed. And yet, those stories still matter. because even when they aren't true, they can still be true to us. Memory may fail us, but meaning, the kind we carry in our hearts, often endures. If this video made you question something you always believed to be true, you're not alone. Leave a comment below about a memory you later discovered was false, or changed with time. Was it a word you misheard for years? A scene from childhood you later found out didn't happen the way you thought? And if you want more quiet explorations like this, into the strange spaces between science and self, make sure to subscribe, because the mind hides more than it reveals. And sometimes, what it hides is you.